Street Fair, Book 2 of the Fair Folk Chronicles, written by Jeffrey Cook and Catherine Perkins, narrated by Fairy Princess Lolly. Chapter 17, Ice Cream. The walk back seemed to take forever, though Megan's efforts to combat the fatigue with some of her magic helped. There were some efforts to discuss the implications of Robin's words, and what the butterfly collector might want, but most were cut off by Casha's snarling, Aisling's wild suppositions and comments, usually pertaining to the butterfly collector's ancestry, preferences, and mental capacity, or, most often, by simple exhaustion. They emerged back into the noise of the Goblin Market, right near a drink stand staffed by a woman dressed in vines and accessorized with pine cones. As the drink seller and Casha exchanged grins and nods, Justin, picking up the base case from where he'd stashed it there, put the Sword of Light back inside. He had to stop for a minute to rest before hefting the case up over his shoulder. The Count perched on one of Megan's slouching shoulders, while Aisling climbed over to the other. "We need to talk to the king," the pixie said. "How are we supposed to find him, if he's even here yet?" Megan asked. "Let's try the picnic area." And Aisling began giving rapid directions, to which everyone had to catch up. Not far from the bazaar was a small grassy field, crowded with the oddest picnic Megan had ever seen. Instead of usual wooden benches, the area was lined with heavy stone tables. The stark gray of the stone was contrasted by the brightly colored umbrellas and canopy tents, many of the latter garishly decorated with streamers, bead curtains, and personal touches that ranged from the silly to the macabre, sometimes in the same tent, such as the canopy adorned with dolls and stuffed animals, and sometimes just their heads, or the tent decorated in what first appeared to be translucent white silks, until one noticed the numerous spiders crawling on and in the spider silk curtains. Some of the crowd skipped the tables, settling in the grass or on blankets, assembling in mixed groups that were every bit as odd as the wild displays. In the center was laid out a midnight blue blanket, over which a handful of white-winged sprites fluttered. Megan could see that they were clutching papers, parchments, and what may have been a tiny smartphone. Sitting beneath this chattering whirl, his coal-black hair flowing down over his rough silk shirt, was the unseelie king, quietly eating ice cream. "Dad?" Megan asked hoarsely. He looked up. "Megan, you look exhausted. Come sit down, all of you. Would you like some ice cream, dearest?" He raised his spoon. "The moonlit flavor is excellent, but I can also recommend the Narcissus." "I've never heard of those flavors. What are they?" "Precisely what they sound like. Moonlit mist takes a while to collect, but for those with the palate for it, you can taste Luna's favor. Narcissus is, well, less subtle, but I like it anyway." Megan finally settled on the moonlit mist, while Lonnie stuck to strawberry. Riacard sent a couple of sprites off to place their orders, scrawled on fancy parchment scraps, while the girls settled in. Once she'd gotten off her feet for a few moments, Megan launched into the explanation of their adventure, though she glossed slightly over the issue of having bartered away a portion of her magically relevant musical capacity. It was embarrassing, and they had a lot of ground to cover. Casha laid out everything they'd acquired. Aisling explained a few of her slightly more probable scenarios for what the butterfly collector might be up to. Riacard listened to all of this: the chase in the market, the half-map, Moichera, the missing banner, the tombs, the grave poem about Baylor and his pallbearers, the Grey Lady, the wands, Death Trap, the tactical charts, Robin Goodfellow, and the stolen shroud. He listened, but never put down his spoon. "Well done all around," he said pleasantly. "I thank you very much for your work. You should go ahead and Keep the shrouds, and I'll look forward to perusing all the rest sometime when I'm not eating. Would hate to get sticky fingers on historic documents. I'll have them taken to my room if you don't mind." "And what about the butterfly collector?" Aisling said. "Let's hope he can be found relatively soon. Although, part of me would almost prefer that it wait until I've returned to the throne. Orla, or Inwar on her behalf, would probably do something unoriginal, like kill him. I'm thinking more of an oubliette." He smiled at Aisling. "That would get him off your mind properly." "But Dad, there were whites," Megan said, "and that Robin person." "Indeed, I can see the concern. I'm very glad that Kasha and the cats were there, and retaining a knight certainly seems to have been an excellent investment." "Yeah, we'd have been killed without them, and there might be more." "Indeed there might be. Having only half a map opens up all sorts of intriguing possibilities." "Intriguing? This is serious, Dad." "Indeed it is. I'll send a couple of messages out. See if anyone has heard anything." Riacard scribbled idly on some more pieces of parchment, handed them off to messenger sprites, and returned to his ice cream. Megan tried a different direction with her questions. "So, the Grey Lady, do you think she might be—" "No," her father actually interrupted her. "Whatever happened between us, she would never be interested in benefiting anyone who would interact with what's left of the Fomori dregs. She might make many poor choices, particularly revolving around her grief, but she wouldn't abdicate her own nature by helping its source." Megan glanced at Aisling. The pixie's frown suggested she wasn't any more convinced than Megan was, but she dropped the subject for now. "All right, so now that we know the whites are out there, and the collector is out there, and Robin is doing something or other, what do we do now?" "I just did it. I'll get the word out, and we'll look into it." Moments later, the ice cream arrived. Riacard seemed far more focused on Megan's opinion of it than on the urgent topics she'd brought to his attention. Megan took a bite. She felt the frozen crystals brush across her tongue and, after a moment, answered her father's unspoken question with, "Yeah, it's good." Annoyed and exhausted as she was, she had to admit it was true. Refreshing. Of course, I'll have to check the next time I'm walking through the mist in the moonlight to see if any sticks to the roof of my mouth like this. That got a rich, dark laugh out of the unseelie king. "Please do, and let me know." "And Lonnie, wouldn't the ice cream go well with one of your chef friend's shortcakes?" Lonnie, never particularly eager to be called on by the king, simply nodded, and Riacard was satisfied. "In all," he said, "aside from the unpleasantness you've mentioned, the market seems to be going well so far." Finally, after a bit more small talk with her father, and a couple more attempts to get more urgency out of him regarding the whites, Megan thanked him for the ice cream, and the group stepped away from the picnic area, though Kasha kept glancing away from them back towards the woman with the pine cones. Finally, when she decided they were far enough away from Riacard and potential eavesdropping sprites, Lonnie let her grumbling get a bit more audible. "Aside from the unpleasantness, the market is going well." That's sort of like, "So, aside from that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln?" Then she sighed and fully spoke up. "Okay, so that wasn't very helpful. What do we do now?" Megan sighed. "We go home, clean up, and get ready for the concert tomorrow. Tonight?" Megan started to get confused about days. "Tomorrow," Kasha said absently. "Everybody still gets to sleep, because of string theory or whatever." "Yes, but—" Lonnie was staring at Megan. "So, wait. He's got Baylor's Standard, there's a bunch of ancient military officers awakening, Robin Goodfellow is running around, and we only have half the map, if that, and you want to do what?" "Do you have a better idea?" Megan said. Than going back home? Maybe. We need to find him. Lonnie's last comment was met with firm nods from Aisling. We will. I just need to think about this. I mean, what did we do last year when we almost had the year without an autumn? Megan said. We went back to my place and danced around to your mom's old songs, Lonnie admitted. Right, and it worked. Kasha, can you play yet another song about jumping at the concert? Done.
Hello friends, this is Gunther Hammerhands. Thank you for checking out Fairy Princess Lolly's channel. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. And if you'd like to support these magical creations, fly over to our Patreon and join the fairy family. Safe travels!